I found my wife's second phone by accident. It was hidden inside a box of tampons, a place she knew I'd never look. When I finally unlocked it, I discovered she'd been living an entire second life. But here's the thing that still haunts me. The person she was pretending to be online? That person was better than me in every way. And I don't know if I can ever forgive her for showing me who I really am. Welcome to Story Matrix Hub, where real people share stories that will leave you questioning everything. If you want more stories that grip you from start to finish, smash that subscribe button right now. You're going to want to follow this one all the way through. Now, let me tell you how my perfect marriage fell apart. My name is Marcus, I'm 29 years old, and until 6 weeks ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I've been married to Lisa for 4 years, together for 7. We met in college, she was studying graphic design, I was in business management. Everyone called us the perfect couple. Her friends loved me, my friends loved her. We bought our first house 2 years ago in Portland. Golden retriever named Biscuit. Weekend farmers market dates. The whole Pinterest perfect life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the day everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning, early October. I was working from home, had a video call at 9 a.m. I went to grab my laptop charger and realized Lisa must have borrowed it again. She does this all the time, takes my stuff and forgets to put it back. I checked her home office first. Nothing. Then our bedroom. Her nightstand drawer was slightly open. I pulled it wider, looking for the charger, and that's when I saw the box. Tampons. Regular Tampax, the blue box. But here's the thing. Lisa uses a menstrual cup. Has for years. She's very vocal about it, environmental reasons and all that. So why would she have tampons? I almost closed the drawer. I almost walked away. God, I wish I had. But something fell off. I picked up the box. It was heavy. Too heavy. I opened it. Inside, wrapped in a small black cloth, was a phone. An iPhone, older model, maybe an 11. It wasn't her main phone. That was downstairs in the kitchen. I'd just seen it. This was a second device. My hands were shaking. I'm not the type to snoop. I never have been. We have passwords to each other's phones. We share locations. We're transparent. At least, I thought we were. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. It had battery. It was being used regularly. The lock screen showed a photo I'd never seen. Lisa at some coffee shop I didn't recognize, laughing with people I'd never met. I tried her birthday. Wrong. Our anniversary. Wrong. Then I tried something random. Her childhood dog's name, Max, followed by the year she was born. It unlocked. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. The screen opened to iMessage. Dozens of conversations with names I didn't know. I clicked on the most recent one, from someone named Jay. The messages made my blood run cold. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. That was from Jay, sent yesterday at 11 p.m. while I was asleep next to her. Lisa's response. I know. I wish I could stay longer, but Marcus was already suspicious about the girls' night. We need to be more careful. I felt like I was going to throw up. My wife was cheating on me. That was my first thought. Clear, simple, devastating. But then I kept reading. The conversation went back months. But it wasn't what I expected. Jay wasn't a man. Jay was Jennifer. A woman. And they weren't talking about an affair. They were talking about work. About art projects. About gallery showings. I scrolled up, confused. Then I saw a message from 3 months ago that made everything click into place. Jennifer, your pieces are getting so much attention. The exhibition in Seattle next month is going to be huge. Have you told Marcus yet? Lisa, no. And I don't plan to. He doesn't understand this part of me. He never has. To him, I'm just the wife who does freelance logos for startups. He doesn't see me as an artist. He never will. I sat down on the edge of our bed, still holding this phone that was cracking my world open. I opened her photos. Hundreds of them. Paintings. Sculptures. Installation pieces. My wife's work. Except it wasn't the work I knew about. This wasn't graphic design. This was real art. Bold, emotional, raw. Some of it was beautiful. Some of it was disturbing. All of it was incredible. And I had no idea it existed. I found photos of gallery openings. Lisa, dressed in clothes I'd never seen, standing next to her pieces, surrounded by people I didn't recognize. Champagne glasses. Art critics. Price tags that made my jaw drop, $15,000 for a single painting. And apparently they were selling. There were photos of her in a studio. Not her home office, but a real studio space, industrial, with high ceilings and natural light. How long had she been renting this? How was she paying for it? Then I found the banking app. She had a separate bank account. I clicked it. The balance made me dizzy. $347,000. $347,000. My wife, who always said we needed to budget carefully, who turned down vacations because they were too expensive, who insisted we split everything 50-50ths, had nearly $350,000 in a secret account. I heard the front door open downstairs. Lisa was back from her morning run. "Babe, you want coffee?" she called up. I couldn't move. I was still staring at this phone, at this entire life she'd built without me. Not an affair. Somehow this felt worse. She hadn't cheated on me with another person. She'd cheated on me with a version of herself she never wanted me to know. "Marcus?" Her footsteps on the stairs. Getting closer. I shoved the phone in my pocket just as she appeared in the doorway. She was in her running gear, ponytail, no makeup, the Lisa I woke up next to every morning. The Lisa I thought I knew everything about. "Hey," she said, smiling. "You okay? You look pale." I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. "Marcus? What's wrong?" And that's when I asked the question that would change everything. "Who's Jennifer?" The color drained from her face. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, she just stood there, frozen. Then I watched her eyes dart to the nightstand, to the open drawer, to the tampon box on the bed. "Marcus," she whispered. "Who's Jennifer?" I asked again, pulling the phone from my pocket. "And who the hell are you?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked slowly into the room, closed the door behind her, and sat down on the floor with her back against it. Like she was blocking my exit. Or maybe blocking her own. "I can explain," she finally said. "But you have to promise to listen to everything before you react." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You have a secret phone. A secret bank account. A secret career. An entire secret life. And you want me to promise not to react." She looked up at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Real, genuine fear. "Marcus, if I tell you the truth about who I really am, you might not want to be married to me anymore." And that's when I realized I was about to discover that the woman I'd been married to for 4 years was someone I'd never actually met. Lisa took a deep breath and looked at the ceiling, like she was gathering courage from somewhere above us. "Do you remember when we first met?" she asked. "What I told you I wanted to do with my life?" I did remember. She'd said she wanted to be a working artist, but needed something stable to pay bills, so she'd focus on commercial design. I'd encouraged it. Told her it was smart, practical. That she could still do art on the side. "You said it was a good plan," she continued, her voice getting tight. "You said being practical was important. That chasing art dreams was fine for kids, but adults needed to think about mortgages and retirement." "I was trying to be supportive," I said, defensive. "No, Marcus. You were trying to be right." She finally looked at me. "Do you know what you said when I showed you my first real painting? The abstract piece I spent 3 months on." I didn't remember. "You said, 'That's nice, babe. Very colorful.' Then you went back to watching football. 5 minutes later, you asked if I could design a logo for your buddy's podcast." My chest tightened. I still didn't remember this, but it sounded like something I might have said. Not trying to be cruel. Just not paying attention. "That's when I realized," Lisa said, "that you didn't see me as an artist. You saw me as a graphic designer who did art as a hobby. And maybe that's all I was when we met. But Marcus, I had so much more inside me. And every time I tried to show you, you'd pat me on the head like I was a kid showing you a crayon drawing." "That's not fair," I said, but even as I said it, I wasn't sure. 3 years ago," she continued, "I sold my first real piece. Remember that weekend I told you I was at a design conference in Seattle?" I nodded. "I was at an art exhibition. My painting sold for $8,000. $8,000 for something I created from nothing. I came home so excited I could barely breathe. But I didn't tell you. You know why?" I shook my head. "Because 2 days before I left, I'd asked if you wanted to come to a local gallery opening with me. You said, 'Nah, not really my scene. You go have fun with your art friends.' Like it was this cute little hobby that had nothing to do with you. With us. So when I sold that painting, I thought, why share this with someone who doesn't care?" "I would have cared," I said weakly. "Would you?" She stood up now, pacing. "Marcus, be honest. If I'd come home 3 years ago and said, I want to quit freelance graphic design and become a full-time artist. What would you have said? I opened my mouth to answer, but she cut me off. You would have talked about stability, about our mortgage, about health insurance. You would have made a spreadsheet showing me why it wasn't practical. And you would have been so reasonable and logical that I would have felt stupid for even dreaming it. She was right. I knew she was right. So I made a choice, Lisa said. I kept the graphic design work, enough to contribute my half of the bills, enough that you wouldn't ask questions. But I rented a studio. I worked on my art every time I told you I was meeting clients or going to the gym or having girls' night. I built a career, Marcus. A real one. And I did it without you because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it. The money, I said. Where did all that money come from? My art, she said simply. I've sold 47 pieces in the last 3 years. Paintings, sculptures, installations. I've had work in galleries in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, even New York. I have representation. Critics know my name, my real name, not Marcus's wife or Lisa the logo designer. For the first time in my life, I'm successful at something that matters to me. And I've been terrified every single day that you'd find out. Why? I asked, and my voice cracked. Why would you be terrified for me to know you're successful? She sat down next to me on the bed, and when she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because I knew you'd make me choose. Between my art and our marriage. Between the life I'm building and the life we built together. And Marcus, I don't know if I'd choose you. The silence that followed was deafening. I love you, she continued, tears streaming down her face now. I really do. You're kind and stable, and you make me feel safe. But my art makes me feel alive. For 7 years, I've been trying to be the woman you wanted, practical, predictable, easy. But I'm not that woman. I never was. And pretending has been killing me. I looked at this person I'd shared a bed with for 4 years. This person whose favorite coffee order I knew, whose family I had Christmas with, whose hand I held through her father's funeral. And I realized she was right. I didn't know her. I knew the version she'd performed for me. Jennifer? I asked. Who is she? My gallerist, Lisa said. She represents me. She's the one who believed in my work when no one else did. Who pushed me to show in bigger galleries, to price my work appropriately, to see myself as a professional artist instead of someone's wife who paints. Were you sleeping with her? I had to ask. No, Lisa said immediately. God, no. Jennifer's married. She's my friend. My real friend, who knows the real me. And I don't. Lisa looked at me with such sadness. Marcus, you know the me I created for you. But that's not the same thing. I stood up, needed to move, to think. So what now? You've been living this double life for years. You've been lying to me every single day. You have enough money to leave me tomorrow. What happens now? I don't know, she said honestly. I never thought you'd find out. I kept thinking maybe eventually I'd figure out how to tell you, or maybe we'd just drift apart naturally and I wouldn't have to. That hurt worse than anything. She'd been planning for our marriage to fail. I'm not a bad person, Lisa said, reading my face. I know this makes me seem like one. But Marcus, I was drowning. In your expectations, in the role you needed me to play. This was survival. So I'm the villain in your story, I said bitterly. No, she said firmly. You're not a villain. You're someone who fell in love with a version of me that I couldn't maintain forever. And I'm someone who didn't have the courage to tell you I was changing. I walked to the window, looked out at our neighborhood. Our perfect life. Our perfect lie. I need time, I said. I need to think. Okay, Lisa whispered. And I need you to show me, I continued. All of it. The studio, the art, the life you've been living. If we have any chance of surviving this, I need to meet the real you. Not the wife you've been pretending to be. She nodded slowly. When? Now, I said. Show me now. An hour later, we were in her car, driving to an industrial neighborhood I'd never been to. Lisa hadn't said much since we left the house. Neither had I. The silence was thick with years of unspoken truths. When she finally pulled up to a converted warehouse building, I felt my stomach drop. This was real. This was actually happening. It's on the 3rd floor, she said quietly, turning off the engine. We walked in without speaking. The building smelled like paint and coffee and concrete. Young artists passed us in the stairwell, nodding at Lisa like they knew her. She nodded back. These were her people, her world, and I was a stranger in it. When she unlocked the door to Unit 314 and pushed it open, I stepped into a space that made my breath catch. Because what I saw wasn't just a studio. It was a window into my wife's soul, and I finally understood why she'd kept it hidden from me. The studio was massive, at least 1,500 square feet, with floor-to-ceiling windows letting in natural light. Canvases were stacked against every wall, some finished, some in progress. There was a sculpture in the corner made of twisted metal that looked like it was screaming. Paint-splattered drop cloths covered most of the concrete floor. The smell of oil paint and turpentine was overwhelming. But it was the walls that destroyed me. Dozens of paintings, all featuring the same subject, me. Not flattering portraits. Not loving depictions of a happy husband. These were different. Disturbing. Raw. In one, I was made of stone, sitting on a couch while Lisa, painted as a bird, beat her wings against a glass window behind me, trying to escape. In another, I was a giant hand, crushing a tiny, colorful version of her under my palm. In a third, we were both drowning, but I was holding her head underwater while I breathed air above the surface. "Jesus Christ, Lisa," I whispered. "I paint what I feel," she said quietly from the doorway. She hadn't come fully into the space, like she was giving me room to absorb it. "Those are from the first year after we got married. You see me as a monster." "No," she said firmly, finally stepping inside. "I see you as someone who didn't realize what he was doing. There's a difference." I moved deeper into the studio, looking at more recent work. The paintings changed. I was still there, but different. In some, I was fading into the background, barely visible. In others, I wasn't there at all, just Lisa in vibrant colors spreading her wings, taking up space. "This one," I said, stopping in front of a massive canvas, maybe 6 feet tall. It showed Lisa standing in front of a mirror, but her reflection was someone else entirely, bolder, brighter, free. "When did you paint this?" "Last month," she said. "After you sold that piece in New York?" She looked surprised. "You saw that on the phone?" "I saw a lot on that phone." I turned to face her. "You're not Lisa Williams anymore in this world, are you?" She shook her head. "I use my maiden name. Lisa Morrison. It's who I was before I met you. Who I still am when I'm here." "And how much time do you spend here?" "Being Lisa Morrison instead of Lisa Williams." 4 or 5 days a week, she admitted. "Sometimes more. When I tell you I'm meeting clients, I'm usually here. When I say I'm at the gym, I'm here. When you said you had that stomach bug last month and stayed home while I went to my work conference," I interrupted. "You were actually in New York at a gallery opening." She nodded, guilt washing over her face. "Your Instagram," I continued, pieces falling into place. "It's all generic. Coffee cups, sunsets, pictures of biscuit. But you have another account, don't you? For Lisa Morrison, the artist." "Yes," she whispered. "I have 43,000 followers." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I have 287 followers on my Instagram. Most of them are college friends and coworkers. My wife has 43,000 people following her art career, and I didn't even know she had an art career. "I was going to tell you," Lisa said. "Eventually." "When?" "When we hit retirement, and you revealed you'd been a successful artist our entire marriage. Or maybe at my funeral, as a fun surprise." "That's not fair." "None of this is fair." I snapped, my voice echoing off the concrete walls. "You let me believe we were partners. That we were building a life together. But you were building your own life, one I wasn't invited to. Do you have any idea how that feels? Do you have any idea how it felt to be invisible?" Lisa shot back, her voice rising to match mine. "To create something beautiful and have your husband say, 'That's nice,' like I'd just shown him a grocery list? To win awards and have no one to celebrate with because the person who's supposed to love me most doesn't even see me. I would have seen you if you'd shown me." "I did show you," she screamed, and the force of it made me step back. "For 2 years, Marcus, I showed you. I invited you to gallery openings. You were always too tired. I asked you to look at my work. You were always too busy. I tried to talk to you about what I was creating. You changed the subject to your job or your fantasy football league or literally anything else. That's not." I started but stopped. Because I was trying to remember. Really remember. And flashes were coming back. Lisa asking me to come to some art thing. Me saying maybe next time. Lisa showing me something on her laptop. Me glancing at it for 5 seconds before my phone rang. "There was that watercolor," Lisa continued, her voice breaking. "The one of the coast at sunset. I spent 3 weeks on it. I was so proud. I hung it in the living room while you were at work. You came home, walked right past it, asked what was for dinner. It stayed on that wall for 2 months before you noticed. 2 months, Marcus. I remembered that painting. I'd complimented it eventually, hadn't I? You said, "When did you get that?" "Looks nice," Lisa said, reading my mind. "You thought I bought it at HomeGoods." The shame hit me like a wave. "I took it down that night," she continued. "And I made a decision. If you couldn't see me when I was trying to show you who I really was, then I'd stop trying. I'd become the version of me you wanted, and I'd save the real me for places where she was appreciated." I sat down on a paint-stained stool, suddenly exhausted. "You should have told me. You should have said, 'Marcus, this matters to me, you need to pay attention.'" I did say that. Lisa was crying now. "Maybe not in those exact words, but Marcus, I said it 100 different ways. And you didn't hear me because you didn't want to. Because the version of me you married, practical, supportive, small, was more convenient for you. That's not true, isn't it?" She walked over to a file cabinet, pulled out a folder, handed it to me. "Read these." I opened the folder. Emails. Printouts of text messages. All from Lisa to me over the years. "Hey babe, there's a gallery opening Friday night. Would love if you came with me. I'm working on a new piece. Want to see it later? Do you think I should take that workshop in Seattle? It's about expanding my art practice." Each one, I'd responded with some version of maybe. "Not tonight. We'll see," or "Is it expensive?" "I tried," Lisa said. "I tried so hard to bring you into this part of my life. But you didn't want to come. So I stopped inviting you." I couldn't argue with printed evidence of my own dismissiveness. "The money," I said, changing the subject because I couldn't handle this revelation. "What were you planning to do with it?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I was saving it in case I needed to leave." The words hung in the air between us. "Not because I wanted to," she added quickly, "but because I thought, eventually you'd find out about all this and be angry. And I'd need a safety net. Or maybe I'd just wake up one day and realize I couldn't live the double life anymore. That I'd have to choose. And I wanted to make sure if I chose my art, I wouldn't end up broke and homeless." "So you were planning to leave me?" "I was planning to survive," she corrected. "There's a difference." I looked around the studio again, really seeing it this time. The life she'd built. The success she'd achieved. The person she'd become without me. "Show me more," I said. "What?" "Show me your work. Really show me. Explain the pieces. Tell me what you were feeling when you made them. Help me understand." Lisa looked uncertain. "Why?" "Because," I said, and my voice cracked, "maybe I failed you for 7 years. Maybe I was blind and selfish and exactly what these paintings say I was. But I'm asking now. I'm asking you to let me see you. Really see you. Even if it's too late." She studied my face for a long moment, searching for something. Sincerity, maybe. Or maybe just trying to decide if I was worth the effort. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." For the next 2 hours, Lisa walked me through her portfolio. She explained the meaning behind each piece, the techniques she used, the emotions she was processing. She showed me reviews from art critics, emails from collectors, photos from exhibitions I'd never known about. And with each new piece of information, I felt the distance between us grow. Not because I was angry, but because I was realizing something devastating. My wife had become an entirely different person than the woman I married. And I'd missed the entire transformation. When we finally left the studio, the sun was setting. We drove home in silence. But it wasn't the angry silence from before. It was something heavier. The silence of two people realizing they might not be able to fix what's broken. That night, lying in bed, Lisa on one side, me on the other, neither of us sleeping, I asked the question I'd been avoiding all day. "Do you love me? The real you, Lisa Morrison, the artist. Does she love Marcus Williams?" In the darkness, I heard her breath catch. And then, after what felt like an eternity, she answered. And her answer changed everything. "I don't know," Lisa whispered into the darkness. "Not yes. Not of course. Not even I think so. Just, I don't know." I felt something break inside my chest. "I love the idea of you," she continued. "I love the man I thought you were when we met. I love the memories we have. I love the safety you provide. But Marcus, I don't know if I love who you actually are. Because I don't think I've ever known who you actually are." "What does that mean?" She rolled over to face me, and in the dim light from the street lamp outside, I could see tears on her cheeks. "You know everything about me now," she said. "The art, the studio, the success, the secret life, all of it. But I realized today, walking you through my work, that I don't know the same about you. What are you passionate about? What makes you come alive? My job, I started. You hate your job, she interrupted. You complain about it constantly. Okay, well, sports. Watching sports isn't a passion, Marcus. It's a hobby. I'm talking about the thing that makes you feel the way I feel when I'm painting. The thing you'd die for. I opened my mouth to answer and realized I had nothing to say. That's what I mean, Lisa said softly. I've spent 7 years with you, and I can tell you your coffee order, your Netflix password, your mother's birthday. But I don't know your soul. And I don't think you know mine. We've been living parallel lives, not intertwined ones. We can fix this, I said desperately. Now that everything's out in the open, we can actually build something real. Can we? Lisa sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. Marcus, I have a gallery opening in New York next month. My biggest show yet. Will you come? Of course. Why? The question caught me off guard. Because you're my wife. That's obligation, not desire, she said. Would you go because you genuinely want to see my work celebrated? Because you're proud of what I've accomplished? Or would you go because you feel like you have to, and you'd spend the whole time wishing you were home watching football? I wanted to lie. To tell her I'd be thrilled to be there. But she'd know. I don't know how to be the person you need, I admitted. I don't understand art. I don't get the gallery world. I'd be awkward and out of place, and I'd probably say the wrong thing. See, Lisa said, but she didn't sound angry. Just sad. That's honest. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't need to understand my art. But Marcus, you need to be excited that I'm excited. You need to be proud of my success, even if you don't personally care about the thing I'm successful at. That's what partners do. I can learn, I said. I can be better. But should you have to learn to care about your wife's passions? Lisa asked. Shouldn't that be automatic? I didn't have an answer. We lay there in silence for a while. Then Lisa spoke again. I've been thinking about something, she said. All day while we were at the studio, I kept watching you. Watching your face as you looked at my work. And you know what I saw? What? Confusion. Discomfort. You were trying, Marcus. I could see you trying so hard to understand, to appreciate it. But you don't. You don't get why I'd spend 3 months on a painting of fractured glass. You don't understand why someone would pay $20,000 for a sculpture made of reclaimed wood. This world I love, it's foreign to you. That doesn't mean I can't support it. No, she agreed. But it means you'll always be on the outside looking in. And I'll always be performing for you, trying to make my passion smaller and more palatable so you don't feel uncomfortable. What are you saying? Lisa took a shaky breath. I think we might be fundamentally incompatible. And we've been too afraid to admit it. No, I said firmly, sitting up too. No, that's not true. We've built a life together. We have a house, a dog, friends, families that are connected. We have logistics together, Lisa corrected. We have a very functional partnership. But marriage is supposed to be more than functional. So what, you want a divorce? The word tasted like poison. I don't know what I want, Lisa said, and she sounded exhausted. 3 days ago, I thought I had it figured out. I'd keep living my double life, you'd never find out, and we'd coexist peacefully until we didn't. But now everything's out in the open, and I have to actually decide what I want my life to look like. And you're leaning toward a life without me in it. I'm leaning toward a life where I don't have to be 2 different people, she said. Where I can just be Lisa Morrison, or Lisa Williams, or whoever I am, without constantly switching between versions of myself. You could do that with me, I insisted. I've seen the real you now. You don't have to hide anymore. But would you actually want the real me around? Lisa asked. Would you want a wife who spends 60 hours a week at her studio? Who travels for gallery openings? Who hosts pretentious art people at our house for wine and cheese? Who talks about chromatic theory and installation spaces instead of what's on Netflix? Would you actually be happy with that person? Or would you resent her for not being the easy, convenient wife you signed up for? I wanted to say I'd love her anyway. But I was starting to understand that love wasn't always enough. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely audible. I think, Lisa said slowly, we need to spend some time apart. Really apart. Not just sleeping in different rooms or avoiding each other. I think I need to stay at my studio for a while. Live the life I've been living in secret, but fully. And you need to figure out who you are without me, without the role of husband to define you. That sounds like a trial separation. It is, she said. And at the end of it, we'll both know if we want to fight for this marriage or if we want to let each other go. Lisa moved into her studio the next day. She took some clothes, her laptop, and biscuit. That hurt more than I expected. She took the dog. Like she knew she was going to be gone a while. I stood in the doorway and watched her pack. Neither of us cried. We were beyond tears now, in that numb space where everything feels both devastating and inevitable. How long? I asked as she zipped up her suitcase. I don't know, she said honestly. A few weeks? A month? Let's just see how it feels. Are we telling people? She paused. What would we tell them? That we're separated? That might be premature. Let's just say I'm doing a residency for work. It's not totally a lie. So we were going to hide this too. Add it to the pile of secrets. After she left, I walked through our house. It felt massive and empty. I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. How little of Lisa's personality was actually in our space. The walls were mostly blank or had generic prints. The furniture was from West Elm, picked out by an interior designer friend because neither of us cared enough to choose it ourselves. This wasn't a home. It was a showroom. I pulled out my phone and did something I'd been avoiding. I searched for Lisa Morrison artist. The first result was her website. Professional, sleek, with a gallery of her work that took my breath away all over again. There were press mentions, articles in art magazines, interviews, reviews. One headline read, Lisa Morrison, the voice of a generation's quiet desperation. I clicked on her Instagram. At Lisa Morrison Art. 43,000 followers, just like she'd said. Post after post of her work, her studio, photos from gallery openings where she looked confident and radiant in ways I'd never seen at home. The comments were full of praise. Your work changed my life. Can't wait for the New York show. You're an inspiration. I scrolled back. 3 years of posts. 3 years of a life I knew nothing about. Then I saw something that made my stomach turn. A photo from 8 months ago. Lisa at what looked like an awards ceremony, holding a plaque. The caption read, Still can't believe I won the Emerging Artist Award. This wouldn't be possible without my amazing support system. In the photo, she was surrounded by people. Jennifer, her gallerist, was there. So were other artists, people holding champagne glasses, everyone smiling. They were her support system. Not me. I wasn't even in the frame. I kept scrolling. Birthdays celebrated at the studio with artist friends. Late nights painting with people I'd never met. Gallery openings where she wore dresses I'd never seen. An entire community that loved and supported the real her. And then I realized something that made me feel physically sick. I wasn't just a bad husband. I was irrelevant. Lisa had built a full, rich, successful life, and I wasn't a part of it in any meaningful way. I was just the person she came home to at night, the obligation she fulfilled before returning to her real life. That's when my phone rang. My mom. Hey, honey. Just calling to check in. How are you and Lisa? I almost told her. Almost said, Actually, Mom, Lisa just moved out because I've been a terrible husband for 7 years, and she has a secret life I knew nothing about. But I didn't. We're good, I lied. Just busy with work. After I hung up, I sat on the couch and really looked at my life. What did I have without Lisa? A job I hated. A house I didn't care about. Hobbies that were really just ways to kill time. Friends I only saw for football Sundays. Lisa had asked me what I was passionate about, and I'd had no answer. Because the truth was, I wasn't passionate about anything. I was just existing, going through the motions. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped growing, stopped dreaming, stopped being interesting. Maybe that's why I couldn't see Lisa's art. Because I'd stopped seeing anything, including myself. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went into the garage and found my old guitar. I'd played in a band in college, nothing serious, but I'd loved it. I'd sold most of my equipment when we bought the house, needed the money for the down payment, and besides, when would I have time to play? The guitar was covered in dust. I wiped it down, tuned it as best I could remember. My fingers felt clumsy on the frets. I didn't remember most of the songs I used to know. But I played anyway. Badly. For hours. Until my fingertips hurt and my neighbor banged on the wall. And for the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't just contentment or satisfaction or the absence of unhappiness. I felt alive. Maybe that's what Lisa had been trying to tell me. That being alive and being comfortable aren't the same thing. And maybe it was too late for us. But it wasn't too late for me to figure out who I was supposed to be. 2 weeks passed. Lisa and I texted occasionally. Logistics about bills, a question about Biscuit's vet appointment. Nothing substantial. We were polite strangers managing a shared business called our marriage. I went to work. I came home. I ordered takeout. I sat in the silence of our house and realized how loud my own thoughts were when there was nothing to distract me from them. But I also started doing things I hadn't done in years. I pulled out my old college notebooks, found poems I'd written, stories I'd started. I'd wanted to be a writer once, before business school, before practical decisions, before I became the person who told his wife that art dreams were for kids. The irony wasn't lost on me. On day 16 of our separation, I was sitting in the living room with my laptop, trying to write something, anything, when my doorbell rang. Jennifer, Lisa's gallerist, standing on my porch with a leather portfolio bag and an expression that was hard to read. "Can I come in?" she asked. I wanted to say no. This woman represented everything I'd been shut out of. But curiosity won. I stepped aside. She walked into our living room, looked around with the same appraising eye I imagined she used in galleries. "Lisa doesn't know I'm here," she said immediately. "And she'd probably kill me if she did. But I think you and I need to talk." "About what?" Jennifer sat down without being invited, set her bag on the coffee table. "About my friend, who I've watched torture herself for 3 years trying to be 2 different people. And about you, the husband who somehow never noticed." "I noticed," I said defensively. "Did you?" Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "Because from where I'm sitting, you noticed when you found a phone she'd hidden. Not before. Not when it mattered." I sat down across from her. "Did you come here to tell me what a terrible husband I am? Because I've got that covered, thanks." "No," Jennifer said, her voice softening slightly. "I came to show you something. Because I think there's a piece of this story you're missing." She opened her portfolio bag and pulled out a small painting, maybe 12 by 16 inches. She handed it to me. It was a portrait of a man sitting at a kitchen table, early morning light streaming through a window. He was drinking coffee, reading something on his phone, completely absorbed. The detail was incredible. You could see the steam rising from the mug, the way the light caught the silver in his hair. It was me, painted with more care and attention than I'd ever paid to myself. "She painted this 4 years ago," Jennifer said. "Right after you got married. It's called Morning Ritual. It's never been for sale. Never been in a show. She keeps it in her studio, tucked away where no one else can see it." I couldn't speak. The painting was beautiful. But more than that, it was loving. You could feel the affection in every brushstroke. "That's not all," Jennifer continued. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos, then handed it to me. More paintings of me. Dozens of them. Me reading. Me sleeping. Me laughing at something. Me standing at the window looking out at rain. All painted with the same tenderness, the same attention to detail. "Lisa's never shown these to anyone," Jennifer said. "They're too personal. But Marcus, she's been painting you for 7 years. Not the versions in her studio that you saw. Those are about her pain, her frustration. These are different. These are about love." I felt tears burning my eyes. "I don't understand. If she loves me, why is she leaving?" "Because love isn't enough when it's one-sided," Jennifer said gently. "Lisa loves you. God, does she love you? But she also needs to be seen, to be valued, to be celebrated. And you've been looking at her without actually seeing her for years. I know that now. Do you?" Jennifer leaned forward. "Because I've known Lisa for 3 years, and in that time, do you know how many times you've asked about her art? How many gallery openings you've attended? How many conversations you've had about her work?" I shook my head. "0, Jennifer said. "She would come to the gallery after meetings with you, and I'd ask how it went. She'd always say the same thing. 'He doesn't get it, but that's okay.' Except it wasn't okay. It was killing her. Slowly. Every time you dismissed her passion, every time you changed the subject, every time you treated her art like a cute hobby instead of a legitimate career, it was a tiny death. Why didn't she just tell me how bad it was?" "She tried," Jennifer said, "in 100 different ways. But Marcus, here's the thing. People don't leave because of one big moment. They leave because of 1,000 tiny moments of not being heard, of not being seen, of not mattering." I looked down at the painting in my hands. This version of me looked so peaceful, so present. I wondered when I'd stop being that person. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Jennifer sighed. "Because Lisa has her New York opening in 2 weeks. It's the biggest night of her career. Literally career-defining. There will be major collectors there, critics, potential representation from bigger galleries. This could change everything for her." "I know." She invited me. She invited you out of obligation, Jennifer corrected. But Marcus, I don't think you understand what's at stake here. If this show goes well, and it will, Lisa's going to have to make a choice. She'll have opportunities in New York, maybe even Europe. She'll need to be fully committed to this career. And that means deciding if you're part of that future or not. My chest tightened. You think she's going to leave me? I think she's going to choose herself, Jennifer said. And honestly, I support that. I've watched her shrink herself to fit in your life for too long. But, she paused, seeming to wrestle with something. But I also see those paintings. I see how she looks when she talks about you on the rare occasions she lets her guard down. And I think if you showed up differently, really differently, there might still be a chance. What does that mean? Jennifer stood up, preparing to leave. It means you can't just show up to her opening with flowers and a smile and think that's enough. You need to actually see her. Understand her. Celebrate her in a way that's about her, not about salvaging your marriage. Can you do that? I looked at the painting again. At the care Lisa had taken to capture a version of me that was better than I deserved. I don't know, I said honestly. I want to, but I don't know if I know how. Then you have 2 weeks to figure it out, Jennifer said. She walked to the door, then turned back. And Marcus, if you do come to New York, don't come as the husband trying to save his marriage. Come as someone who genuinely wants to witness his wife's triumph. Because if you can't be that person, it's better if you don't come at all. After she left, I sat with that painting for hours. Looking at it. Really looking at it. Seeing the love Lisa had poured into every detail. And I made a decision. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Then I drove to the library. I checked out every book on contemporary art I could find. I spent hours reading about technique, about art theory, about the history of modern painting. I watched documentaries. I followed art critics on Twitter. I subscribed to art magazines. I wasn't trying to become an expert. I was trying to learn the language of Lisa's world, so I could finally have a real conversation with her. On day 3, I visited 3 local galleries. I stood in front of paintings I didn't immediately understand and forced myself to sit with the discomfort. To ask questions. To be open to not knowing. On day 5, I found an article Lisa had written for an art journal about her process, about what she was trying to say with her work. I read it 6 times, taking notes like I was studying for an exam. On day 7, I did something crazy. I signed up for a beginner's painting class at the community center. I was terrible. Laughably bad. My still life of a bowl of fruit looked like it had been painted by a drunk toddler. But the instructor, a kind woman in her 60s, said something that stuck with me. Art isn't about being good. It's about being brave enough to try to express something true. That night, I texted Lisa for the first time in days. I'd like to see more of your work. Not because I have to. Because I want to understand what matters to you. Can I visit your studio again? She didn't respond for 3 hours. When she finally did, it was just 2 words. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I barely slept that night. Because I knew this was my chance. Maybe my last chance. To show up as the person Lisa needed me to be. But when I arrived at her studio the next day and saw what she'd been working on, I realized I was walking into something much bigger than I'd imagined. When I walked into Lisa's studio, she was standing in front of a massive canvas, easily 8 feet tall. She was covered in paint, smears of blue on her face, red on her arms, yellow in her hair. She looked exhausted and alive in equal measure. Hey, she said, not turning around. She was adding final touches to whatever she was working on. Hey, I replied, staying near the door, giving her space. We stood in silence for a few minutes. Just me watching her work. I'd never done this before. Just watched without needing to fill the silence with small talk or looking at my phone. Finally, she set down her brush and turned to me. You said you wanted to see more of my work. I do. She studied me for a moment, suspicious. Why? Because Jennifer came to see me, I admitted. She showed me the paintings. The ones of me. Lisa's face flushed. She had no right. She did, I interrupted. Because I needed to see them. To understand that this isn't just you walking away from a bad marriage. It's more complicated than that. Lisa crossed her arms, defensive. What do you want, Marcus? I want to understand, I said. Really understand. Not just nod and smile and pretend I get it. I want to know what you're trying to say with your work. What it means to you. What you need from the people who love you. She looked at me for a long time, searching for something. Sincerity, maybe. Or maybe just trying to decide if I was worth the effort. Okay, she finally said. But you have to listen. Really listen. Not just wait for your turn to talk. I promise. For the next hour, Lisa walked me through her work. But this time I asked questions. Real questions. Why did you choose those colors for this piece? What were you feeling when you made this? What do you want people to take away from this? And I listened. I didn't check my phone. I didn't glance at my watch. I didn't think about work or traffic or what we were having for dinner. I just listened. Lisa was talking about a sculpture made of broken mirrors when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence. You're actually paying attention, she said, almost accusingly. I am. Why now? Her voice cracked slightly. Why not 3 years ago? Or last year? Why did it take me leaving for you to suddenly care? I thought about lying. About saying something comforting. But she deserved the truth. Because I was comfortable, I said. In my ignorance. In my assumptions about who you were and what you needed. I didn't ask questions because I thought I already knew the answers. And I was wrong. About everything. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. That's not enough, Marcus. It's not enough to say you're sorry. It's not enough to spend 2 weeks reading about art and think that fixes 7 years of dismissiveness. I know, I said. I know it's not enough. But Lisa, I'm not here to fix our marriage. I'm here because I finally understand that you're remarkable, and I want to witness that. Even if it's too late for us. She wiped her eyes roughly. The opening is in 5 days. I know. Are you coming? Do you want me to? I don't know, she said honestly. Part of me wants you there. Wants to share this moment with you. But part of me is terrified that you'll show up and still not get it. That you'll say the right things but feel the wrong things. And I can't handle that disappointment again. I walked closer to her, to the massive canvas she'd been working on. It showed a woman splitting into 2 versions of herself. One walking toward a bright doorway, the other chained to a gray room. Is that how you feel? I asked. Split in 2. Every day, she whispered. Lisa Williams, who has a husband and a house and a normal life. And Lisa Morrison, who has a career and a purpose and an identity. I'm so tired of being both. Then don't be, I said. She looked at me confused. Stop being Lisa Williams, I continued. Just be Lisa Morrison. Or just be Lisa. Or whoever you actually are without trying to fit into what anyone else expects. Including me. But that means our marriage might end, I finished for her. I know. And that terrifies me. But Lisa, I'd rather lose you and know you're living authentically than keep you and watch you die slowly trying to be someone you're not. She was fully crying now. You mean that? I do, I said, and I meant it. I love you enough to let you go if that's what you need. Lisa sat down on the floor, her back against the wall. I sat next to her, close but not touching. I don't know if I want to end our marriage, she said quietly. But I know I can't go back to how things were. Then we don't, I said simply. We figure out something new. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But at least it'll be honest. We sat in silence for a while. Then Lisa said, the opening is black tie. Very fancy. There will be collectors and critics and people who actually know art. You'll probably hate every minute of it. Probably, I agreed. But I'll be there anyway. If you want me there. Why? She asked, turning to look at me. Give me one good reason why you should be there. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I said, because for 7 years, I've been showing up as the wrong person. And I want the chance to show up as the right one. Even if it's just for one night. Even if it changes nothing. I want you to have at least one memory of me being the person you needed me to be. The gallery in New York was exactly as intimidating as I'd imagined. High ceilings, white walls, beautiful people in expensive clothes sipping champagne, and speaking in the kind of low, serious tones people use when they want you to know they're having important conversations. I wore the suit I'd gotten married in. It barely fit, I'd gained weight since then, but it felt appropriate somehow. Coming full circle. Lisa was across the room, radiant in a black dress I'd never seen, her hair up, talking to a group of people who were hanging on her every word. She looked so confident, so in her element. This was her world. I hung back, watching. Not trying to insert myself. Just witnessing her triumph the way Jennifer had told me to. Jennifer found me first. You came. I came. And it's incredible, I said honestly. All of it. The work, the space, the way people are responding to her. She deserves this. Jennifer studied me. You really mean that? I do. She nodded slowly. Then go tell her. I found Lisa between conversations, a rare moment alone. She saw me approaching, and her expression was unreadable. "You came," she said. "I promised I would. And I'd like that. And Marcus." She took my hand for the first time in weeks. "I don't know if we're going to make it. I really don't. But I know I love you. And I know that for the first time in years, I feel like you actually see me. That has to count for something." "It counts for everything," I said. We stood there in that gallery, holding hands, surrounded by paintings that told the truth about our marriage in ways we'd never been able to say out loud. And I realized that sometimes love isn't about staying together at all costs. Sometimes it's about being brave enough to admit when you've been wrong, to change, to grow, to see the person you love for who they really are instead of who you need them to be. "And Lisa Morrison is extraordinary," I said. "Your work is powerful and honest and deserves every bit of attention it's getting. I'm so proud of you." She searched my face for insincerity, for obligation. "You really think so?" "I really do," I said. "And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. To see you." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "I have to do a talk in 10 minutes. Will you stay?" "I'll stay as long as you want me here." I stayed for the entire opening. For hours of watching my wife shine. I didn't understand every piece. I didn't connect with every conversation. But I was present. Really present. For the first time in our relationship, I showed up for her world instead of expecting her to show up for mine. At the end of the night, after the last guest had left, Lisa and I stood alone in the gallery, surrounded by her work. "So," she said, "what happens now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know I don't want to go back to pretending. To either of us pretending." "Me neither. Maybe we need to start over," I suggested. Not as Marcus and Lisa Williams, the married couple who thought they knew each other, but as two people who are meeting each other for the first time. A fresh start. Something like that. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm going to stay in New York for a few months. I have opportunities here. Important ones. And I need to explore them without worrying about you, or our marriage or obligations back home." My heart sank, but I nodded. "Okay. But," she continued, "if you want, you can visit. Not as my husband coming to check on me, but as someone who's interested in what I'm doing, who wants to be part of this journey. I don't know how our story ends. Maybe we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe we'll realize we're better apart. But I know this. Lisa Morrison is an extraordinary artist, and I'm grateful I finally woke up in time to witness her becoming who she was always meant to be. Even if it meant losing the version of her I thought I knew. Even if it meant confronting how small I'd made my own life. Even if it meant starting over. Because sometimes that's what love requires. Not comfort. Not convenience. But the courage to let go of what you thought you wanted and embrace what's actually real. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my own apartment. We sold the house, writing this story. Lisa's in New York, thriving. We talk every few days. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes it's easy. We're figuring it out. And I've started writing again. Really writing. Not for work, not for anyone else. Just for me. Because Lisa taught me something important. You can't celebrate someone else's passion if you don't have your own. I don't know if we'll end up together. But I know we're both better for having had the courage to be honest. To stop pretending. To stop performing for each other and start living for ourselves. And maybe that's not the ending you wanted to hear. Maybe you wanted us to have a tearful reunion, a perfect reconciliation. But life isn't always that neat. Sometimes the happy ending is just finally being honest. Finally being seen. Finally being real. Thank you for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in a relationship, or realized you've been making yourself smaller to fit into someone else's life, or discovered that the person you love has layers you never saw, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories too. And if you're new to Story Matrix Hub, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because every story here is about real people, real struggles, and real truths. Sometimes messy. Always honest. Remember, it's never too late to start seeing the people you love for who they really are. Even if what you see changes everything. I'm Story Matrix Hub. Thanks for being here.